And the drivers are ready out on the circuit as we get ready to go for a 28-lapper at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. Who will be claiming the checkered flag and those all-important points as we have our first look at the grid. Starting on pole position, it is Mohamed Medina in the Ferrari 458. Porsche represented by Benjamin Hengste from Hungary on the front row of the grid. Daniel Fenton heads row 2 with Mercedes-AMG and Kilian Drumont in the Subaru BRZ alongside row 3 Thomas Laboutelet in the BMW M6, and then next up it is Paul Ura in the Mazda RX Vision Gran Turismo concept. Then it's Jose Serrano 7th on the grid ahead of Vernon Rouge in the Chevrolet Corvette C7. Nico Romero heads Genesis's charge. He lines up 9th position with Daniel Penco, the Spaniard, alongside him. Next up it is Mateo Estevez in 11th place. And 12th and last on the grid will be Coque Lopez in the Lexus. Won last time out a few weeks ago, just to remind you. Now, as you can see, the weather conditions far from ideal. It is sopping wet out there. No choice for these drivers here, Jimmy, to start on the wet compound of tyre.
No, you have to do that, otherwise you'd just be completely gribless for the first couple of laps or so. But Medina out front in that Ferrari, feeling fast, obviously, as he said a bit earlier on. So if you're him, really, ideally, you want to just eyes forward and try and build as big a gap as you can whilst the car is feeling good. Of course, tyre wear on as well here, so easy to burn these wet tyres if it gets into difficult conditions. But I think it's going to be a fun race this one, Tom.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, because of course it can dry out. There is that possibility with the dynamic weather. Will someone go on to the intermediate tyres? Will they make a gamble and go straight onto the dry compound tyres? We'll wait and see what is going to happen over the course of this 28-lap race. But round 2 of the 2024 Gran Turismo World Series is about to begin. We're ready to go racing here in Prague as Mohamed Medina and Ferrari will lead the field across the line, and we are underway then here at the Red Bull Ring as we head up towards the first corner. Medina, Hengste, then Fenton, Drumont, Laboutelet. Don't expect any rash moves in towards turn 1, out of turn 1 into turn 2, and then the heavy braking zone of turn 3 is where we should see drivers getting themselves in position for the first overtakes. You saw Fenton there running a little bit wide on the exit of turn 1. That's left him under attack already from Kilian Drumont in the Subaru as we head up the rise in towards turn 3. Medina's got the lead. Second place there for Hengste, looks pretty sure, but But what about what's happening further behind? Drumont right on the back of Fenton. Don't think he was able to launch a move, but you've got Laboutelet and Jura in position there side by side. 5th place for Laboutelet as he drags alongside and then past the Mazda and up through into 5th place.
Irene Darouche in the background in the Chevrolet going around the outside perhaps of Paul Jura, and Mazda who's looking to the inside of Laboutelet. Cars getting very close contact there between Hensey and Badima at the head of the field. Estevez there having an awful time, I think, spinning down at the at T4 there at the back of the pack, so bad to worse for him. But meanwhile the mid-pack is everyone for themselves. Contact again, I think this time between Darouche and Drummond. These guys are fighting for their lives whilst racing each other out there. Horrible conditions to drive in these, but this really shows the talent of these drivers and it shows the strengths and weaknesses of the cars too, as Drummond just struggles to get the throttle there out of the Subaru. Fenton hangs on in 3rd for now.
Look at this, you can throw a blanket over these drivers, they're so close to one another from 3rd place back. Badima, meanwhile, has pulled out a 1.3 second advantage over Hensey on this first lap. Then the cork in the bottle is Daniel Fenton at the moment, the Mercedes driver who we ride on board with, and we're not even at the end of the first lap. Out of the final corner we go then. Is anybody going to think about a lunge in towards turn 1? You'll be brave if you think about doing that, because it could leave you under threat in towards turn 3. Drummond, though, decides that discretion is the better part of valour, looks for a half move up the inside, but eventually ducks back into the wheel tracks of the Mercedes. He's trying to line it up on the exit of turn 1 and into that braking zone of turn 3.
Yeah, that AMG is just a roadblock right now. No one can find a way around. On board now with Paul Jura in that Mazda, of course highlighted by that rotary engine. Look in the mirror there in the bottom right hand corner, you can just about see that BMW pushing along Paul Jura. Laboutelet on the outside, they all try and break off line, just about managing to keep out of each other's way. Darouche there getting by Drummond, so Darouche up into 4th place. Now Jura's following through as well. That Subaru really struggling on the straights here. Unfortunately, this is not a circuit you want to have a car that's slow in a straight line.
Yes, left under attack here from Laboutelet, or moves under braking there. Drummond leaves no room for his countryman. Laboutelet's going to try and rough it around the outside. I don't think he had much choice in the matter, but he's turned it into an opportunity. He's got ahead of Drummond and he's almost side by side with Jura. Just has to back out of it again on the exit of that corner and duck back into the wheel tracks, but that was very close and aggressive racing. Jura's a little bit wide. That's left the door open for Drummond to go through into 6th place or 5th place possibly, but no, not for now. Drummond just sits there in 6th position, but all the while they're squabbling, look at what's happening in front. Badima, Egsay, all clearing off into the distance. They're nowhere to be seen.
It's hard to overstate how difficult this is. Just driving around in these conditions at this speed is impressive in itself, whilst trying to race each other. This is where these guys earn their reputation. So the Laboutelet now, we're focusing on him in the BMW P7 in the pack, and there's Drummond as well. A bit slow off the exit is Paul Jura. Drummond's now putting alongside Will. He has the legs to get by Laboutelet. He's going to push his fellow countryman through there, up into P5 and P6. Go BMW and Subaru. Up the inside goes Thomas Laboutelet. No, he thinks better of it for now. Still holding the place, but no, Paul Jura hanging on the outside somehow in that Mazda. Has to back out of it finally, but that was great working together there by Laboutelet and Drummond, but maybe the stewards will have a look at that.
It's allowed Serrano an opportunity to go through up into 7th place there, so Jura has just lost out a little bit whilst they were going side by side into that braking zone of turn 3. I tell you what, I wince every time we go into them, because it just takes one locked brake, and these drivers don't run ABS, so one snatch brake and you're going straight off to the scene of the crash.
I'm waiting for that one guy to just come flying across the inside of the picture there, out of control, wiping somebody out. Hopefully it won't happen, but of course it can happen. So still here on to lap 3 there. Badima and Hensey there, really not separated by much. Very, very quick in these wet conditions are the Ferrari and the Hensey. 3.5 seconds back is Fenton. So these guys seemingly the ones to beat at the moment.
Lap times in the high 138s for the two leaders. We expect the crossover time, by the way, to go on to intermediate tyres about 137 there or thereabouts. You can see Badima with that big old slide in that Ferrari 458 as he came through the right-hander. But that's the crossover time. Rain is still coming down as it stands for now, so just keep an eye on the weather conditions. If it starts to dry out, when the times get down into the 1 minute 37s, that's when we should see drivers thinking about boxing for inters.
Yeah, I'd love to take a look at the weather radar, of course a feature in GRAN TURISMO 7 to see sort of what's coming and what's happening there, but wipers still on for now. Rain is still falling for now, so we'll keep an eye on that and see if things get any better. But we're going to have to take one again. Badima stretching his legs a little bit, the gap now up to 1.2 seconds, but it seems a little bit weak through T1. That's where Hensey comes back at him. There's a replay. Here's what happened here between Jose Serrano and Laboutelet. We go down towards T4, heavy on the brakes, contact there. Oh, off goes Serrano, he spins. Oh, what a shame there. for hoses to run after such a strong showing at the Montreal round.
Yeah, a bit of a ham-fisted attempt there for the Spaniard, I'm afraid to say, as he went into the braking zone of turn 4. Le Boutelet, we ride on board with him and Drummond, all out of shape there, and then contact spins round Drummond. Oh, Killian, what on earth is going on with your 2024 season? He made a mistake in the Nations Cup, if you remember, back in Montreal, and it goes from bad to worse for him. He must have walked under a stepladder or, I don't know, something along the lines of that. You know, seen a black cat or something today, because it's just not working out at all.
I love to see a replay of that, but I think Le Boutelet was quite heavily involved in that incident there. But we'll comment on that when we see more. For now, there you go, the stewards having a look at that. We have live stewards here at the event, straight into the action, straight into the investigation, and we'll get back to you as soon as we know more. But that does put, as you say, Killian Drummond at the back of the pack, and Coque Lopez will be happy with that because he's gained enough place out of it. But not moving forward. Someone who is moving forward is Estevez for Honda, up to P7 right now after starting from the back of the grid. So great racing so far from Estevez. Can he continue?
We have a look at the weather radar in our commentary box, and there's a bit of a break in the weather we can see coming along the way in a few moments' time. So if that does start to ease off ever so slightly, we'll keep an eye on things and see what happens. There is Nico Romero driving for Genesis. As I mentioned earlier on, Genesis podium for them in the World Finals at the back end of 2023 in Barcelona. Can they repeat that feat over the course of this year? Just to remind you, as we now see the weather radar, you can see there heavy rain at the moment, but it is going to start to break a little bit later on in this one. So if that does happen, or when that does happen I should say, then we'll see drivers changing their strategy and thinking on the fly.
I love that we have that in the game. In real life, the weather radar is something you just don't mind looking at, especially if you're in the Nürburgring. But anyway, here is a replay of what happened between Drummond and Le Boutelet. So we're coming down to T4 there. A bit of contact on the way in. Is there something? No, he loses it on his own. No, he doesn't. He almost does. Yeah, the contact there with Le Boutelet just spins him around. But you can see all the way in, really struggling with the rear of that Subaru, sorry. So I think that maybe that car just not quite the right car to be in these conditions. But still good. We do want to come back from this, Drummond, but back of the field for now.
Unfortunate there for Killian as he sits down at the back of the field in 12th position for now. There is Engse. Tell you what, he's keeping Benima honest, actually, isn't he, over the course of this first few laps in this, both of their first races in the Gran Turismo World Series. They're driving like they've been here for a fair amount of time. You can see 4.2 seconds there and thereabouts over some parts of this lap that they put into Daniel Fenton, who sits in third place. You can see Le Boutelet getting a 3-second penalty for that collision with Killian Drummond. Well, we wondered the stewards might have a look at it, and they have, and they've decided to hit Le Boutelet with a 3-second penalty, which is going to drop him down to about 10th place there and thereabouts once he served it.
I mean, yeah, it was fair. He spun Drummond, ended his race pretty much, so yeah, penalty there I think is fair in that situation. So meanwhile, in the mid-back, Paul Euro will be the first person to gain from Le Boutelet's penalty. You can see that 3 seconds above the top of his car there. As he comes to the penalty zone, he will be forced to brake for 3 seconds, so you lose a lot more than that in reality. And then, of course, the time getting back up to speed again is massive, especially given around here a lot of high-speed acceleration zones. But on board with Paul Euro, looking a little bit flustered, I think, at the moment. Not looking like he's very comfy. That Mazda proving difficult in these conditions so far. Almost collects the back of the Boutelet there, picks up his own penalty. But we've seen a lot of drivers doing that, just sort of being off the corner, trying to avoid too much rotation, trying to get it all in one hit and accelerate in one straight line, so accelerating with a bit of lock-on, because that's an easier way of just getting traction that way.
Just want Estevez a little bit closer in that Honda there as well. That Honda's not been particularly fast actually so far this week, especially in these wet conditions. You can see Estevez struggling with the traction as he comes out of turn 4.
Estevez's lap time, so if you look at it, he's matching the leader pretty much at the moment, so he's really quick as Estevez, so keep an eye on him. Well, we did say he would come back through the field, didn't we? And here he comes now in that Honda in P7. I'd say the rear engine cars, the mid engine cars, having a bit of a better time at the moment than the front engine cars.
Yeah, snap of oversteer there for Euros. You saw him just coming through that right hander. Here's Le Boutelet serving his penalty, moves off the racing line. Such closing speed they have as Le Boutelet once again to emerge at 7th place, a little bit higher up the order I thought. Penko and Romero also under investigation for a collision as well. They're in 8th and 9th place, Romero and Penko respectively at the moment. Out of the final turn we go, and across the timeline. So it's all pretty quiet on the Western front as it stands for now, but it's going to bubble up a little bit later. Where are we at in terms of lap times? We're still in the low 138s at the moment, so we're not close enough for a changeover. The rain is still falling down, but at a lighter intensity than it was. Let's have a look and see if we can work out what happened here with Romero and Penko into turn 4, downhill on the braking, Penko on the inside, wide. Bit of contact there with Romero. I don't think that cost them too much. Really.
Nah, that's all right. It's racing that one. That's right. I say that, and the stewards are going to say it isn't that. Well, no further fraction. There you go. Finally, I've got one right. After all this time, it's taken 8 years. How long it's been? Oh, Lopez there. Forgetting that it's the pedal on the left that slows you down, or we've got clutch, I guess, but slows you down too. And back down to 12th place, he goes behind Kylian Drummond. Coque Lopez is struggling big time in that Lexus.
Yeah, I wonder if he's going to try and launch an attack immediately on Kylian Drummond and get himself ahead. Down into the braking zone we go. Closes right up on the back of the Subaru, and it's just not working out at all here for Coque Lopez. He doesn't look comfortable. Look at the way he's driving. Look at his driving position as well. He looks tense in his shoulders, doesn't he? You can see him fighting the car, scrabbling for grip and trying to find performance that just doesn't seem to be there for the Spaniards.
Yeah, it's important in wet conditions to sort of let the car move a little bit. If you're trying to put in these really big aggressive inputs, that's when the car has the biggest issue. It looks like he's sliding through this midsection here, so we have to hope for Coque's sake anyway, the weather does lighten up a little bit. Again, our weather radar suggesting that rain's still coming down pretty decently at the moment, so we've got a long way left in this race. Lap 8 of 28 as Padima comes across to start lap 8, and here is a replay there of Coque Lopez. So this is going to be quite scary on board if you're Coque Lopez. You hit the brake pedal, nothing's happening, they've got to get out of the way. Oh, you can imagine just some feeling there of am I about to want something else? No, okay, good. I am now last.
Yeah, that would make it twitch like a rabbit's nose, wouldn't it? Unfortunate there for Coque Lopez, and just about managing to avoid contact into turn 3. Now Serrano versus Drummond. Drummond starting to come together in this race. 8th lap out of 28 we are on here in the Manufacturers' Cup Grand Final. Jura versus Estevez a bit further up the road. Estevez now finding that pace. He got ahead of Laboutelet a couple of laps ago. Now his next target is going to be the Spaniard. So out of turn 3 and into turn 4 could be the opportunity that the Honda driver is looking for as he makes his recovery through the field following the difficult qualifying. Side by side we run. Estevez is going to be on the outside into the downhill braking zone. There's a bit of hip and shoulder and a bit of contact. That's going to run Estevez a little bit wide, but can he find traction on the exit of the corner to get ahead of Jura? Side by side they go through into the next left-hander. Estevez is going to have track position here if he can just firm it on the inside, but has he got the grip there to get ahead of Jura? No, Jura sweeps around the outside and holds on to 5th place.
What an impressive drive so far by Estevez. This guy started in P11 and is up to P6 and challenging Paul Jura in P5. I think he's got the pace to get by, but Paul Jura, very experienced in Gran Turismo 7, just putting the car in the right places right now, but the pace isn't there for him. It's just a matter of time, I think.
Drummond just losing a position there to Jose Serrano for 10th position as well. On board we ride here with Thomas Laboutelet. Pole position for BMW back in Amsterdam. That'll seem like ever such a long time ago, no? There was a bit of contact, isn't there, going through that final corner. Estevez now under a bit of pressure. Meanwhile, Laboutelet versus Estevez as we come across the timing line to be in lap 9. Laboutelet with the inside line with track position, with the grip under braking, but does he want to get ahead of Estevez, or does he want to leave himself open to the opportunity into turn 3? Estevez run to the curb on the outside. Laboutelet's going to try and pick up his slipstream here on the exit of turn 1 and then run it for a move shortly on the inside into turn 3. The Frenchman closes up onto the back of the Argentine then. Estevez defends track position on the inside and just holds on to 6th place for now. So nice, clean, fair racing in the mid-pack here.
So the rain's getting a little bit lighter, but we've still got a heavy rain zone coming in there from the south. The wind is blowing a north direction, so it's bringing that rain zone across. So it's not quite done in terms of rain, but already there's some of these guys searching for the water, it seems, and these wet tyres, they've been on since the start of the race. They're going to start to wear somewhat. But if you're Estevez right now, you're in a bit of a tricky situation because you're trying to overtake Paul Jura. Whenever you do that, you put yourself back into the clutches of the car behind Laboutelet, and we've seen him. He's elbows out all the way as Laboutelet in this race. So definitely one to watch out for. But Estevez needs to try and focus and try and put a car between him and that BMW behind.
Got to be careful as well. You don't want to squabble too much because look who's going to clear off into the distance. Paul Jura doesn't need a second invitation to build a bit more of a gap over those two drivers. And Estevez there wide on the exit. That could leave him under threat from Laboutelet. Maybe not into these last couple of corners, but perhaps across the timeline and into turn 1 again.
I was going to say, speaking of clearing off into the distance, the leaders now are 5 seconds ahead of the rest as Laboutelet dives on the inside of the last corner. Not usually a place to see an overtake there. Up into 6th place goes Laboutelet. So that was a nice move there. But these guys have been sort of bashing and crashing into each other a little bit, so we'll see if the stewards have got anything to say about any of the racing. To me, it's all fair racing right now. Great move by Leboutillet, but now the question is, can he make up the time to Paul Ura in front? The gap now about 1.8 seconds, just about out of the slipstream range. It's going to be all power from that BMW, which we know has got plenty of as it bears down on the Mazda in front. But yeah, Medina and Hensey first and second, 6.5 seconds ahead of Benton for Mercedes in third. So it's looking good for Ferrari and Porsche right now.
Well, hugely impressive as well for Hensey to just stick it onto the coattails of Medina, not launching any moves, not getting himself into any trouble, just keeping himself there ready to try and pounce. Let's have a look here. Esteban, he just ran a little bit deep, didn't he? And then Leboutillet said, thanks very much. There's a tiny bit of contact out of that penultimate corner, into the final turn. Leboutillet up the inside and through into sixth position. Didn't need a second invitation there. His next target will be trying to close up onto the back of Paul Ura for fifth position. Meanwhile, back at the front, you've got Medina and Hensey still close to one another. This has been the story of the race. It is a little bit closer than it was last time around, so I wonder if Hensey wants to just try and lead the race at this point, maybe.
Might be a mistake for Medina as well. Of course, that gap is now down to only a tenth of a second, and that Hensey makes the mistake, gets onto the silly part of the circuit, recovers it well. But that would have been a nerve-wracking moment there for Benjamin Hensey and Team Porsche. The gap back up now to 0.6 of a second, much to the delight, I'm sure, of Mohamed Medina in front in that Ferrari. But we're seeing the pace. We're seeing the pace come through now for Hensey and Team Porsche. And that's going to be a wake-up call, I think, for Mohamed in front. It's a bit, okay, cool, right. This guy is quick behind me now. I need to focus. I can't be making silly mistakes and letting that gap come down again.
I tell you what, I can't remember the last time we saw a driver, though, come into the Gran Turismo World Series and just perform as well as Mohamed Medina has done, and also for Benjamin Hensey as well, actually, for that matter. These two have just been parachuted into this season, and it's like they've been here for years.
Yeah, they've done amazing so far, but the race is far from over. And to prove that, here are people squabbling for position in the mid with Romero and Benko. Benko looking up the inside of that Genesis, not going to get a good run off the corner there. Here comes Kylian Drumont in the Subaru trying to recover after a spin earlier on. But again, just hasn't quite got the legs in that thing. Any corner exit, any acceleration, as though he just goes backwards. It must be so frustrating. But that is the Manufacturers' Cup. Not all cars have the same strength in the same places. There's Drumont, big dive up the inside. Penko there also having contact with Romero in the Genesis, and there's still contact, nearly spinning out. Penko is Drumont. They all seem to somehow get out of the corner, but that was a bit of a mess down there.
That's the thing is, when these cars are driving on the limit, as they are in these conditions, you could push them around with your little finger, basically. They are just on the ragged edge of adhesion. You can see Penko is now lost out here to Jose Serrano, who's having this race, it must be said, in that Toyota. Let's have a look at the lap times. Where are we at in terms of that? The weather, it's still in the sort of mid 138s. Nothing really to write home about. Certainly not change over to intermediates time for the drivers, despite the fact the rain has definitely decreased in intensity. So we'll keep an eye on that over the next few laps or so and see how this circuit develops, whether the pace does start to pick up.
There'll be a couple of drivers out there really, I think, hoping for that penalty, and Leboutillet given another 1 second penalty. Do you reckon that was for that little bump into the last corner? Because that would have unsettled Estevez. Basically, you refer to it as a bump and run, which if you're driving a stock car is great. Here, not so much. So that may be for that. We'll come back to you when we can confirm that entirely. But another penalty for Leboutillet. He's costing himself here a good result.
Yeah, he's been in the water a little bit over the course of this race, hasn't he? Let's be completely fair. We're still not quite at the halfway stage of this first race. There's plenty of action left to come. You can see Nico Romero there, just up ahead of Kylian Drumont, 8th, 9th, 10th then for Romero, Drumont and Serrano as it stands for now. Leboutillet though with that 1 second penalty, that's going to drop him close to the likes of Estevez and Romero, so they may fall into the distance of that, because it's not only the 1 second that you lose from the penalty, it's also the fact that you've got to get yourself back up to the same racing speed as the rest of the drivers. You can see he's right on the back though of Paul Ura as we head through this middle sector of the lap. Ura doesn't want Leboutillet to try and get himself involved in the action, because that's going to cost him time. You can see there, cue the Jaws music, Estevez, Romero and Drumont all not far away from this.
Slightly autographs casually, but here we go then. Penalty being applied to Leboutillet in that BMW right now. Can Estevez make the most of it? It's going to have to be over speed a lot quicker, right onto the back of that BMW, but not quite close enough to make the move at that point. And I tell you what, Estevez will be ruined that. He really wants to get by Leboutillet. He had that pace, but as you say that, since Leboutillet got past, he did manage to open up a little bit of a gap. So maybe the charge starting to wane a little bit there for Estevez and the Honda.
So across the timeline we go. Badima, Ainsay and Fenton still your top three as it stands for now. Nose-to-tail racing here though in this mid-pack of this one. Keen to see what is going to happen here. You can see Drumont now on the recovery with Nico Romero just up at the sharp end of the field. You can see them also on the left-hand side of your screen. Drumont up at the top, Romero down at the bottom. Reverse of those in positions on the track at the moment as we go through the left-hander kick. This is turn 2 technically, and then this braking zone just after. This is into turn 3, and we've seen a few drivers making a bit of a meal of it, it has to be said. You can see Romero there really slow actually on the apex of the corner, allows Drumont to close right up onto the back of it.
Interesting strategy there for Drumont, taking a higher gear and just nailing it out of the corner and hoping for the best. Maybe better than trying to play with the throttle and having that wheel spin moment that we've seen so many times from these guys coming out with slow corners. As we come through again now down to T4, and still rain coming down for these guys at the moment, so still having to deal with this, still having to deal with the conditions there, as Badima has actually just about spread the gap a little bit to Hensay up in the lead. You can see there are live audience there enjoying the racing as of now. Manufacturers Cup now, Nations Cup a little bit later on today, so lots of racing for you Gran Turismo fans at home watching. And there is our weather radar, and after I think this one the last cell of heavier rain, I think it looks like we're starting to clear up a little bit, so we will see. Of course the weather is moving all the time, dynamic weather conditions here in GT7, so lots of the possibilities still to come.
And speaking of those possibilities, Jimmy, for the likes of the Labutale, Estevez, who are a little bit further down the order, do you think they'll be a little bit more inclined to take that risk? As we see Drumont now getting close onto the back of Romero, not quite going for the move. But yeah, just going back to that point, do you think that they might take a bit of a gamble? They've got less to lose.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the moment, if I was one of those guys, the moment I saw contact there, between Drumont and Romero, nothing seemed to come from it there, but just showing that braking performance of that Subaru. You see on the brakes, Drumont is a demon. It doesn't matter. You can't do anything with it when he comes off the corner. But to finish my thought there, yeah, if you're one of these guys who may be trying to think, can I improve my race? The moment I saw my lap time coming down, I would come into straight away. Maybe even one lap before. Just try and call it for everyone else does.
Do a Jensen Button. Do you remember what he did in Australia 2010? He came off the intermediate tyres straight onto the slicks, went off on the next corner, and then managed to get enough heat to get those tyres working. That's a problem for later for these drivers to worry about. We are now at the halfway stage though of this race. Into turn 4 we go. Romero still in front of Drumont. Serrano there in the back with a little bit of a slip and a slide on as well.
Now, we've been singing the praises of Estevez in this race, but also Ray Darouche up 4 places from his starting position. The second best of the front engine runners to Fenton, who has, I think, just sort of found his pace now, found his groove, and is actually starting to go back towards Hensay in front ever so slowly. It actually looks like the charge of Ben Hensay in the Porsche is starting to slow down a bit as Drumont goes up the inside of Romero at the S's there. They're now side by side coming up to this last couple of corners here. Drumont on the inside, Romero on the outside, but Romero able to just drive straight back past him again. That must be so frustrating if you're Kilian Drumont.
Yeah. What a shame there for Drumont. He's doing nothing wrong at this moment. And look at the exit. He's got out the corner, pulls alongside Romero and easily gets ahead. But is that going to leave him vulnerable into the next heavy braking zone of turn 3? Side by side they go down the start finish straight. Romero's going to go for the long sweeping line on the corner of turn 1 and try to use the traction on the exit. Gets a bit of a slip and a slide on Drumont, push to the sausage curb on the outside, and again side by side they go. Romero on the inside, Drumont's on the outside, and Romero in the Genesis with greater straight line speed just powers past the Subaru. Nothing Drumont is able to do. Into the braking zone of turn 3, closes up once again, gets very deep on the brakes, tries to switch back on the inside, gets himself ahead. That might leave him an opportunity for Serrano to come into play as well.
That's what he needs. He needs that. He needs someone else in between him and Romero. Serrano dives up the inside in that Toyota, but Drumont, even still, that amazing exit, is still struggling to try and make the gap heavy on the brakes. Now this is where Drumont's got to make the difference. He's got to be quick in this middle sector. If he can get free, I think we're going to see him pull up to the back of Labutale. He just needs to be on his own, and he's made it. Look at the difference in speed there as Serrano gathers it up from a slide mid-corner. 100 mile an hour plus slide. These things are scary, I can tell you that for sure. But going through this middle sector, Drumont just disappearing now from Samara Romero as he is finally unleashed.
Romero was so wide out of turn 4, he was almost off into the car park at that point. He wants to get it back online and gather it all up, but it really could have cost him quite dearly indeed. He's now going to redo all of the hard work that he was trying to do on Serrano a few corners ago. In towards the penultimate turn we go. Lap time's now starting to creep into the 137s for the first time as well.